Halloween
forever.
Welcome, guys. Hey, for the sake of this joke here, I'm not married. Hey, this girl, she recently broke up with me. It's kind of a bummer. Did I tell you about that, Steve?
No, you didn't tell me about your girlfriend that you broke up with.
She broke up with me. She said I had revenge issues, which is crazy. We'll see about that. You stepped on my punchline with your just sickening. All right, let's try another one. Let's try another one because that one didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I remember when I was in college, I used to work at a bookstore. That was a fun job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember this guy came in one time. He said, "I'd like a book on revenge, please."
Yeah.
I said, "You'll pay for that."
See, that one's better.
Boys and ghouls,
that one's better.
To the fucking November Showdown episode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Mr. October.
Hey, who that boy is over there? Who that handsome boy lurking over in the corner is? Is that Bob? Is that Bob from the Hops and Box Office Flops podcast? How's it going?
Oh, I'm afraid it is.
Yeah.
Howdy, gentlemen. And welcome, listeners. Thanks for letting me join tonight. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to talking about these movies.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for our November Showdown episode, our revenge horror Showdown episode for the illustrious month of November. Little audible for our listeners. I know we were talking about in the last podcast, last mini-sode, TK was going to join us, and then he tapped you in. He blew out his ACL or something, couldn't get in the ring.
He's a coward.
Yes, he does have chronic knee issues as well, so that's pretty standard for him. But no, all joking aside, Tom is currently in Ohio with our buddy Blake, and I'll be joining them tomorrow because the three of us are going to go to the Bengals game Sunday night. Bengals-Bills.
Oh, Bengals.
Let's see if they actually play the game this time.
That'll be a fun one, guys. I know you're all very heavily invested in my fantasy football team, but that's a big one for me. That's a big one for me. Got Joe Burrow. He's got to come through for me. Big week,
me too.
Big week. You got Joe
me
Burrow?
too. I got Joe Burrow.
Nice.
I got Joe Burrow. I got James Cook for Buffalo. I'm tied for number one in my league. I'm playing the other guy who's number one. So we got a real barn burner on our hands for this Sunday. And I got to get up at 4 a.m. on Monday morning to catch a flight. So I'm not even going to be able to watch it.
Ooh, rough.
But yeah, listen, guys, that's enough about my fantasy team. I'll give you a quick fantasy corner. We'll start making that a regular segment here. That's not what we're talking about, guys. We're talking about revenge horror here. Our Showdown episode for November. For those of you who are new to the show, maybe you just started listening around Halloween time. We get a lot of new folks around spooky season joining the show. Thank you once again. Also, I'll explain what this here Showdown episode's all about here in a second, but probably a good time to mention, just because we just finished Halloween season. We're now in the throes of November. Holiday season's right around the corner. Guys, we just hit 10,000 followers on Instagram, which is really exciting. Thanks for all yin's new followers out there who joined us around spooky season. And we got a fun little 10K giveaway we'll talk about here in a hot second. But as far as this here Showdown episode's concerned, if this is your first Showdown episode, here's how it works. We do a brand new Spooky Ookie bit of content, new podcast every damn Monday on the internets. But the first Monday of every month, we do what's called a Showdown episode. And how that works is me and Steve got a big old spinny ass wheel, got a whole shitload of different topics on it. Sometimes it's subgenres, sometimes it's performers, whatever. Could be any number of things. Maybe it's a production studio, who knows? We pull 3 of those a month off of that list at random with our spinny ass wheel. We throw that onto the social medias on Instagram and Twitter, and then our social media friends and listeners go out and vote, see which one of those topics they want to see come to life for that following month's Showdown episode. Revenge horror is what won in November. So me, Steve, and our guest this month is, of course, Bob. We each pick a movie associated with that topic. We're going to argue about it, guys. I know only our Patreon friends that are here with us in the Discord can see it. But I got a steel chair here, right? Steve's got the Kimbo stick. I saw that. I don't know what Bob's sporting. I think he's dragging a bag of tacks. But we're going no holds bar extreme. Falls count anywhere rules here for this Showdown episode. We're each going to talk about our movie. We're going to argue about it. We're going to poke holes in each other's arguments. We already had some backstage heated discussions happening before we got on here. We were already, me and Bob were already piling on Steve's movie before we got on. So we had a little tussle backstage, guys, and it's gonna spill out into the ring here in a second. Ultimately, we're gonna vote at the end, and somebody's gonna take home that son of a bitch and championship strap for the month of November. Steve, like you said, Mr. October himself is coming in with, is it 2 straight wins or is it 3 straight wins?
I think it's 2.
Yeah. You're going for 2. The 3-peat. That's right.
Going for 3-peat.
Yeah, which is bad for everyone because, of course, whoever wins gets to pick the punishment movie that we all have to watch on the follow-up episode. And Steve has been kind on the last couple of them, and I don't expect that to happen in November. He's probably got some horrible scatological bullshit that he's going to make us watch, and I'm really not looking forward to it. And I honestly, Bob, we may want to consider like starting some sort of faction here just to prevent Steve from winning, because this is problematic for all of us. Hey,
don't be starting no BWO just to go against me, just because he's both B's and he's be like, I'm Brian and I'm bald and this is the BWO. Don't be doing that.
Hey, us B's got to stick together, man.
But I will say, because I did the 31 Days of Horror recommendations for our Patreon, I had to watch a lot of movies that did not make the cut. A lot of movies that are fucking trash, but now they're ammo. They're ammo, so fuck you.
Yeah, I got a couple of them. Hey, look, I got a couple of them in the old chamber here. We'll see what happens. This is why they play the games, right? Anyway, before we get into those movies, before we jump into this sons of bitch and revenge horror showdown, a couple of quick things to the top of the show. First of all, if you're new and you want to follow us over on them social medias that I already mentioned, go over to @HalloweenIsForever on Instagram, Halloween is Forever Pod, I think, on TikTok maybe. I know it's @HalloForever on Twitter. Whatever the hell, just go search Halloween is Forever. You'll see it's a little pixelated, cute little pumpkin guy on there. Follow us if you want some dang old spooky ooky shit on the internet every damn day. Follow us if you want to join some of our patrons who join us regularly here on the Discord during recording. If you want to get episodes occasionally a little bit earlier, if you want to get access to those 31 days of horror that Steve did all those fantastic write-ups for, or if you want to get access to our monthly Patreon exclusive podcast, go over on the Patreon. It's patreon.com/HalloweensForever. Steve, tell them a little bit about that. I can't bring myself to bring it up. I start to get shaky. I'm poised. I'm psyched up. I just hit the smelling salts. I'm ready to rock for this showdown, and I don't need this fucking Patreon podcast bringing me down. So tell the folks what that's all about.
The ever lingering finger of death behind Brian, known as Family is Forever.
I hate it so much.
Family is Forever is our monthly podcast in which I make Brian go through the entirety of the Fast and the Furious franchise, movie by movie. And every month you get a new episode of Brian languishing in existential nightmares. Just cannot handle the way his life is going. He's falling apart.
It's a psyop. It's Steve. It's, I think, the federal government's involved somehow. I don't know how. My friends and family have turned on me. I've shunned them. I moved out of the house into a shed out behind the house. I moved into the pool shed because I can't trust anybody. And it's all because especially of this piece of shit podcast.
Yeah, especially now because like I was over to your house for the Halloween party, and then that was more of like a conclave for all of us to plan our next move. We're all very excited for Fast 5 coming up in November. And
I tore all the drywall out of my house because I think Steve might have placed cameras.
just one or two,
just so he can watch me and make sure I'm watching it and somehow, incite some sort of additional control over my life.
Yeah. I mean, there's cameras in the walls, but there's also cameras in the toilets, so I can just watch him make.
That's weird. I hate that you said make. Somehow grosser. I don't know why.
Wow. Brian, you just got to make it to like Fast 7.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when it really like just kind of totally goes off the rails. Does that sound right, Steve? Is it 7?
Guys.
It could be 7. It could be 7. Now, see,
guys,
now
Bob's in it too. And I was hoping this is what happens. Steve goes and finds guests for the podcast and they're in on it too. Because that's exactly what somebody who was in on this would say.
I think it's called gang stalking. I don't know. But
we already talked about it. I'm being gang stalked. I know this is the case. I'm at Giant Eagle. I'm getting a bunch of chip chopped ham for the Steeler game. I'm standing there and all of a sudden I hear 2 old ladies sitting there talking beside me and they're like, Fast 5, Dom Torino. I could just hear them over there saying Fast and the Furious shit. It's on my phone. My phone's listening to me. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Siri knows.
Yeah, I hate it so much. But if you want to listen to my slow psychological unraveling, it is actually fun to talk about these movies because they suck ass so hard. They're genuinely the worst movies ever made. I hate watching them, but talking about them is kind of fun. So if you like them, like Steve, if you have poo brains and like them, or if you hate them, like me, you're going to have fun listening to the podcast. So go over to patreon.com/Halloween's Forever. Sign up with that $5 a month tier. Just a couple old paper monies. You get a bunch of fun stuff, like I said. Yeah. Also, Steve, tell me about in celebration of hitting our 10,000 follower mark on the Instagram. What are we going to do? We're going to do something fun over there too, huh?
Yeah, I just got a couple 2. I'm not going to give you 3, but maybe 3. Maybe 3. But I got a couple Steam games for everybody. If you want to jump on the Instagram, we'll be running a little giveaway throughout the week. So it'll just be one of those simple ones where, you just tag your friend, you hit the like, you do a share maybe, and you do a comment, and you'll get entered into a free giveaway. And I got the original Ghost Runner, which Ghost Runner 2 just came out. And then I got a fun game called Terror of the Hemosaurus, which is basically like Rampage, but it has a climate change storyline to it. So it's a bit fun.
Sounds fun. Listen, guys, if you like Vidya games, if you especially like Vidya games about climate change, go on over to our Instagram, follow us on there, check out the instructions on there, participate in our fun little giveaway to celebrate 10,000 followers, and maybe you get a free little Vidya game on the Steam. So little thanks for the follow. We appreciate you over there.
Yeah. Maybe I'll give you some more too. But we'll see.
Who knows? We'll see how Yins act.
Yeah, we'll see how Ewans act. Ewans. I want the old school Ewans. I want to be proper. You see how Ewans act. But how about Bob? How about you tell everybody where they can find you? I mean, I just mentioned the Terror of the Hemosaurus, but the Terror of the Chumpzilla, tell everybody what's up.
Yeah. No, you can find our podcast, Hops and Box Office Flops, anywhere you can download the finest podcast. Check us out on Twitter at HOBF. I think that's what it is. Hold on. What is our Twitter? That sounds right. Just look it up. This is usually T-Dub's job. But you can find all of us on Twitter. Captain Cash, Bling Blake, the Thunderous Wizard, and of course, our dear friend, the Sleepy Bear, Mary McCheese. But it's a fun podcast. We talk about bad movies and usually good beer. And we drop new episodes every Friday. So Hops and Box Office Flops, check us out.
That's Hops and BO Flops.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah, if you like this show, obviously you like talking about shitty movies. We talk about good movies too sometimes. We talk about a lot of shitty ones. Yeah. If you like talking about shitty movies, if you like talking about beer, you'll like their show as well. So definitely go check it out. Fun show. Speaking of beers, do Yin's boys got beers over there tonight that you want to talk about? I see Bob's got one.
Beers.
Yes. All right. Cheers, gentlemen.
Yeah, cheers. Steve, why don't you kick us off? Show us what you got.
I got one, and I just was looking at the label and discovered it was old, but it doesn't taste old, so that's fine. Because it is a barrel aged. So
it's got some life on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I guess it held up. It's got the high ABV. It's got a bit hold up to it, but it's the Allagash Day's End, and that is an ale brewed with Lambrusco grape musk, and angelica root and bitter orange, and aged in bourbon barrel root, bourbon barrels. Yeah, 9.5%.
That sounds down a similar 9.5. That's a big boy, but that is kind of down the avenue that I'm going. Actually, interestingly enough, not exactly the same, but it bears some similarities. Bob, what are you drinking on over there?
I am drinking a Wild Range Brewing Company's Imperial IPA. This is an Aldi special, so I kind of rolled the dice there because Aldi has its own like virtual brewery brands. And I think this is out of Rochester, New York. It's the same guys that do Genesee Cream Ale.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, it's a virtual brewery. But as far as like a Aldi special goes, this is not bad. It's at 8.5%, I think. It's a little chewy, a little maltier than I expected. But, I mean, it's pretty drinkable. And at 8.5, it does taste a little boozy, but I'm not complaining. So, for an Aldi special again, yeah, okay. But
I'm always intrigued by those house brand beers, because they're obviously Aldi's not making its own beer. Same thing with like a Costco or whatever when they have their like Kirkland brand, whatever. They're contract brewing it somewhere. I always love to do a little sleuthing and figure out who's out there contract brewing for. I remember for a long time, was it Costco? I think. Their like session IPA or whatever that was actually made by Firestone Walker, I believe, once upon a time, and it was killer.
Really?
So like sometimes you'll find some really great buys in there. The problem is sometimes when they make a bajillion cases of it at once, and if you get it fresh, great, but if it's been sitting on the floor for months and months and months, that obviously is not ideal. But
no bueno.
Yeah,
I tried the pumpkin beer last year. The Aldi pumpkin beer was terrible.
Yeah,
it was almost undrinkable. It was so bad. Like I was really disappointed.
The only beers I've ever bought at Aldi is when they had like those, holiday German beer, like Lent, or not Lent, Advent calendars.
Advent calendar, yeah.
And they're always painfully old. They're all like German imports. That'll be like Tucker, and it'll be like stuff like a little bit more obscure German breweries. And a lot of times it's just like the beer is so oxidized and ancient, but
because they're also putting like Hellas's and like stuff that's not even seasonal in there. Like sometimes I see that sometimes I see like their browns and like smoked ales and things like that, but other times it's just like, here's a fucking Hefeweizen at the middle of winter. Fuck yourself.
Yeah, you'll see like a Christmas bock. You're like, oh, that makes sense. But then there's like a Tucker Helles that's like a year and a half old in there, and you're like, oh, I guess I'll just wipe my ass with this. Thanks.
Yeah. Fun fact about Aldi. Yes, it is a German company, right? I guess like it was founded or whatnot by two brothers.
Okay.
And they had a falling out here in the with the business here in the States. So one brother continued to run Aldi, and the other started Trader Joe's.
Yeah,
I have heard that. Now that you say that, I remember somebody telling me that before.
Same deal with Puma and Adidas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I was shocked because I've never been in a Trader Joe's before until this year. And then I always thought it was like rich people food. So that's why I didn't go in there. I thought it was on the level of Whole Foods. No, it's on the level of Aldi. It's just like different stuff. Yeah.
Huh. I mean, there's not one near me.
It's incredibly affordable.
Is it? Okay, I'll have to check one out. But there's not one close to me, but I've definitely got Aldi and I've definitely got Whole Foods, or as we call it down here, Whole Paycheck.
I got some like Reese's peanut butter cup type things, but they were like house-made dark chocolate sunflower butter, and they were like $1. Yeah. Like cheaper than Reese's peanut butter cups. It's like, get the fuck out of here. They're just hiding these in the suburbs because they don't want the pores near them is all. That's all it
is. Yeah, I mean, you ain't wrong. But hey, because I'm on Halloween is Forever, I've got to get in a snack plug, and it's Aldi adjacent. I'm a big cheese stick guy, and I have found that Aldi has the best cheese sticks. Their pepper jack is better than Sargento's. I used to be a big Sargento's guy. I'd pay the extra for those because store brand was gross at Kroger or Walmart, whatever. And Aldi is better, and their Gouda sticks are amazing. Like, so for for a poverty charcuterie board, go with the Aldi cheese sticks.
Hell yeah.
Here's a question for you as a self-proclaimed cheese stick guy. How do you eat the cheese stick? What is your preferred methodology? Because I feel like that says a lot about a person, how you eat a cheese stick.
Okay, this might be, giving a little too much away here, but I do the little nibbles.
Yeah.
I'm a nibbler.
So do you string it, or you just kind of...
No, I'm not a string cheese guy, but the Aldi ones are kind of like bars. They're flat and wide.
Oh, they're more square kind of. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
No, they're like rectangles.
Oh, all right.
They're rectangles. They're flat and wide, and I'm a nibbler, and I keep the wrapper on.
Yeah,
I don't do anything uncovered.
I got you. Just for protection. I actually I unsheath the entire thing and just swallow it whole. Don't even chew it.
I mean, as God intended.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not trying to taste it. That's the sin. So
that's why his nickname's the cheese snake.
Good old cheese snake. They don't call me that for nothing. As far as what I'm drinking here, Steve, it sounds a little bit similar in that there's I don't know why, it just felt like there's some old world components to it. Yours had some various weird herbs and spices and things like that.
Mine is supposed to be an inspiration by the Boulevardier cocktail.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's why it feels old, is because it was probably built in the 1880s in a fucking dusty ass Chicago bar or something like that.
Gotcha.
That sounds way too fancy.
Yeah. See, I'm going something. I haven't had any of this. And Steve, you might have brought this to my house. Somebody did.
Yeah,
for the
I left
Halloween
that at your
party.
house.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm getting after a little bit of mead. I'm doing a damn, psychedelic 80s fucking freak out horror fantasy hero quest movie. So, how the hell are you not going to drink some mead while you're talking about that? There's rarely mead in my fridge. So Steve brought this over, left a couple at my house for our Halloween party. I'm drinking Arsenal Cider House's Orange Blossom Event Blend Mead. It's a 6.5% session mead with orange blossom honey. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
some killer can art.
It is. It's cool. And I'm usually not a mead guy. Usually mead is either too boozy or too sweet or too not even. There's a unique, overly perfumey floral sweetness that can kind of become cloying and weird to me. This is actually quite dry, and interestingly enough, it tastes a lot like cheap Concord grape juice a little bit, which I kind of like. It's got a little bit of that floral thing to it. It's definitely got a little bit of a sulfury, kind of sulfate, not fartiness, but just that first sip is a little sulfury.
I mean, so is the floral component coming from the orange blossom, you think?
Yeah, I think so. And just honey in general. Mead does tend to be quite floral, just because it's, for those of you not familiar with mead, it's honey wine, right? But it's oftentimes fermented with, typically some sort of wine yeast strain. So it does have a lot of wine flavor cues to it, but it's a lot drier than I thought. It's definitely got a little bit of sweetness to it. It's floral. It's got a little bit, like I said, a little bit of that weird sulfitic thing to it. But otherwise, 6.5%, I'm enjoying it just fine. And like I said, get me in the spirit to talk about some dang old, fucking fantasy hero quest shit that I'm going to be talking about today. So, speaking of those movies, I've already alluded to mine. If you haven't listened to the last couple of episodes, or at least the last episode where we announced what we're going to be talking about, just to recap, I'm going to be talking about 2018's Mandy in our Revenge Showdown. Bob, what movie are you going to be talking about?
I'm going to be talking about 2011's You're Next.
Ooh, it's a good one.
In
it's
honor of Tom. That was the movie he chose.
Yes, so you were assigned this movie, so that should be a fun little wrinkle thrown into the matchup here.
Yeah,
Steve,
I feel like I'm at a significant disadvantage. It's going to be an uphill battle for me.
It's a good movie, though. I really like that movie a lot. Actually, I like all these movies. So, a lot of times when we do the showdowns, whether it's 3 or when we did a fatal 4-way for Halloween, sometimes I would say more often than not, there's one that I'm I'm not really that into that one. Or, all 3 of these movies are genuinely I really enjoy all three of these movies for different reasons. But
I just can't believe that Tom tried to do A Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, what a corny ass pick. Like, no, Tom, you can't pick. You can't, yeah, I mean, I get it, but like, technically you're right, but I think you're missing the point.
Well, it's revenge on revenge almost, because Freddy was, murdering children. And then the town burned him as revenge. And then now he's getting revenge for someone getting revenge on him. So it's like Inception level revenge there.
And I'm sorry, but it's more fun when you're doing a Showdown episode like this to have movies that are like not classics, right? Like, yeah, it's just less interesting. Rules. Everybody knows that movie. There's not much to talk about that people haven't already said. Like, we used to call it the Meg rule. We used to give her a hard time when Meg was our third co-host on the show, because we'd be like, hey, we're gonna do shark movies, and she'd be like, listen, guys, Jaws. I picked first. I'm going Jaws. Fuck Jaws. You. We're doing here. I'm picking The Exorcist. For our possession movie, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So she was just shameless. She just went for the throat. So we try to not do the first option there. But in any case, Steve, tell the folks what your movie's going to be.
And I will be doing The Toxic Avenger from 1984. I thought it was, one, it's appropriate for what we're talking about, but also like, let's get us ready. Let's get us pumped up for the remake coming out. Macon Blair, who I watched Murder Party again for Halloween because I always do.
Such a great movie.
Yeah, such a great movie. But he wrote and directed the remake of that, and Lloyd Kaufman seems to have given it its blessing. So it's all there, and I'm ready for it. And
when's it coming out? By the way, I saw the
trailer. Is it end of the year? I think maybe.
Is it that soon? I know it's not too far down the road because we saw a trailer, or some sneak peeks not that long ago. But I wasn't sure when it was coming out. But
I think it might be end of the year. Maybe it's like a February 2024 release. Who knows? But it's close. They finally released the trailer, so let's get ready to go.
Yeah,
nice.
All right. So that being said, Steve, being the defending champ, he gets to figure out, and let us know what the order in which we're going to discuss our movie is going to be. So what are you thinking, Steve?
I'm gonna go a little different from usual.
Okay.
I'm gonna let Brian go first.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go in the middle. Did you make me go
first in October?
Yes. I said a little bit different. Not terribly different.
All right. Fair enough.
And I'm gonna go in the middle, and I'll let Bob go last.
Okay.
I'll pull up the rear.
All right. Fair enough. Okay. Well, then let me jump straight into this son of a bitch. Like I said, I'm talking about Mandy from 2018. This is a hard movie to categorize. Yes, it's definitely will fall in the category of a revenge movie, a revenge horror movie, but it's also a, psychedelic fantasy horror, like fucking droning doom metal opera on top of it. Like it's such an insane, unique movie. We've talked about before on the podcast, just high level before. It's definitely got mentioned before. And I've been absolutely in love with this movie since the first time I saw it. In the theaters when it came out. I was actually down in Texas, was just, hey, gonna go see a horror flick, went in a little bit blind, had heard a couple of good things, didn't know what it was about, got myself all nice and baked, went into the Alamo Draft House in Austin, watched this, and just got wildly stoned and had a blast watching this movie. Like, just fucking loved every second of it. And I've probably seen it, no joke, I've probably seen it six or seven times since then. Like this is a movie that could quite possibly, I would feel comfortable saying it falls in my top 25 horror movies. Like I absolutely adore this movie. I champion this movie every chance I get. And it has quite a following, but I wonder, 10, 20, 30 years from now, I feel like a lot of people are going to think about this as one of the, a great kind of like hero's quest type of horror flick. So that is one thing to take into consideration when you think about this movie. It is really like, if you're at all a fan of fantasy movies, fantasy literature, video games, especially the kind of like almost Dungeons and Dragon-esque type of horror or like Hero Quest type of fantasy movies. Usually, especially if you look back at some of the older ones, like a lot of times, especially like the 60s, 70s, like pulp novel fantasy type of things. Usually one of the big themes is either saving, whoever the hero is, like saving their beloved or saving somebody, or enacting revenge in some capacity. So this is obviously the latter. And usually you're fighting with whether it's dragons or monsters or demons or some sort of shit. In this instance,
guys with sword dicks. This is kind of all the above. This is like evil cults, monsters, a bunch of wild shit, right?
I can't help but remember as a teenager, I read a lot of Pierce Anthony. And like that, like there's nothing in here that specifically screams Pierce Anthony, but there's a lot in here that screams Pierce Anthony. Just like weird magic setups that aren't necessarily magic, and just like otherworldliness. And it just reminds me of a Pierce Anthony novel without being one. Anybody who's listening, go check out Upon a Pale Horse. That might be his best.
Yeah.
From a visual standpoint, there's a lot of things in this movie that like remind me of Hellraiser,
sure.
And it just like in the best ways, right? I mean, it is weird in the best ways possible. And the director's, vision or whatever, like his ability to capture vibe is incredible. Like the movie is very atmospheric. And so. It's just cool. It's visually interesting, and the story is good as well. Like, and come on, what else can you ask for in a movie? I was saying before the pod when I was trying to figure out how Discord works because I'm old. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to describe, and then Steve was able to kind of clarify it for me. But just the way like the colors are saturated and the contrast is cranked up, the movie just pops in a way that's like it catches your interest, and you're like, wow. And I watched the director's first film, like Beyond the Dark Rainbow or whatever,
Beyond the Black Rainbow. Yep. Very
similar in that. Movie's not as tight as Mandy, but it's funny because I didn't know what Mandy was, right? And we on Hops and Box Office Flops did a Raging with Cage, month where we did 4 Cage movies, and one of them was Mandy. And I'd heard about it. I heard like, hey, Nick Cage just did this movie, Mandy. I assumed it was like a rom-com. And like everyone's like, oh, he's really good in it, and you should check it out, and like whatever. So when I finally had to watch it for the podcast, I was like, oh, this is not a rom-com. Oh, wow.
This is the opposite of a rom-com.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy crap. And I was hooked. I'm like, this movie's great. I was so glad we did that. So anyway, pleasant surprise there.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's like ultra stylized, super visually stunning, beautifully shot, and Panos Cosmatos, like if you watch Beyond the Black Rainbow, like you said, it's not quite as fully actualized as this movie, but it is again visually stunning, really brilliantly shot movie. The thing that puts this over the top, obviously, amazing cast, very very different, much higher budget as you might expect compared to his other movies. Great cast, great performances, but he still has that beautiful sense of cinematography and kind of visually stunning scenes. The sound design in this one is just so fantastic, and it begs to be viewed in a theater, which that was the first time I saw it, and it was just like you are sitting there stoned, eating my popcorn, drinking my Diet Coke, and just feeling like I'm just getting hit with like waves of sound, watching this, and with the whole Dolby surround sound, all that stuff. It was just such an amazing experience. We'll get into the characters and performances here a little bit in a second, but yeah, really trippy psychedelic visuals, and then this big like droning, some classical elements that add a lot of like kind of gravitas, I think, to the story, because otherwise things are pretty wild and chaotic, and are like there's a lot of black humor that pops up at times as well. So this like really droning classical score mixed with this like doom metal type of soundtrack just adds a lot of gravity to the whole thing. Imagine like the coolest Dio album cover that you can think of. And that is a movie, a full fucking feature-length movie based on a Dio album cover. Or if you've
this
ever
movie
seen,
should be airbrushed on the side of a minivan.
It really should. That's a great way of putting it.
A full-sized van. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, full-on van with shag carpeting on the inside. Yeah,
like
exactly.
if you've ever seen the movie Mark III.
If you've ever seen Heavy Metal, the animated movie Heavy Metal from '81, it's highly influenced by that. You can tell, especially with the animated sequences and these big crazy title cards and all that. And you literally start out with a fucking King Crimson, track at the beginning. It's just awesome. But
very metal.
Yeah. So. I'll talk real quickly about some of the main cast, and then I'll get into high level, some plot points. I'm not going to drain the whole thing, but I'll go through some of the big plot points, and then some of the really great scenes as we progress through this. So the main thing, and big part of the reason why this drew such a big audience and really holds up the idea they pulled it off was it's starring Nick Cage, right? Huge fan base for Nick Cage. And I think a lot of people they think about Nick Cage who maybe haven't seen a lot of movies of his, or maybe just seen a couple. I'm a huge Nick Cage fan. I think a lot of people think of that as I don't want to say ironically, but they're almost like, oh yeah, you like wacky movies. So that's why you like Nick Cage. And I do like wacky movies, but this movie in particular, along with frankly, almost every movie he's in, he's a fucking unbelievable actor. He is genuinely an unbelievable performer, one of the best actors of all time. And I will absolutely die on that hill.
I think Nick Cage has a special code in his own brain that he he doesn't reveal to people, because Nick Cage will take on a lot of different roles, and he does a lot of shitty movies that we don't bother to watch. I still haven't watched the one that I did work on. I just don't watch it. It's terrible.
Which one was that?
The Humanity Bureau. I don't know if you guys.
No, we haven't done that one.
Yeah, I did some writing work for they had a VR component to the DVD release. So yeah, I did writing work on that, but
nice.
And that was even before I knew Nick Cage was on it. So, and then he was on it. I was like, oh, that's crazy. I'm still not going to watch that movie because I've read the script. It's terrible.
Yeah, he takes on scripts and but he will bring, there's plenty of movies. Like I said, this script I think is great, and I love everything about this movie, but there's a lot of movies that I've seen that I'm like, I would never have watched that unless, I only watched it because Nick Cage was in it, and that was the only thing that made it watchable, and maybe it sucked ass, but I love, he just adds gravity to it. Like
Willy's Wonderland, if you give him the right script, it unlocks the code in his brain where he'll give 100% to it. And then that's how you get good Nick Cage. You just have to give him something interesting, and then he'll do something interesting.
Right.
Yeah, that's when he unlocks the full strength Coppola.
Yeah.
And to your point, we did Prey, which is a terrible, shitty movie. And you can tell Cage is not on his A game in that, because it was just a paycheck. He didn't really like it, but he needed the money. Or he wanted the money, because I think he's doing better financially now.
Sure.
But in Willy's Wonderland, it's a subdued performance, but he 110% understood the assignment. Same thing with Mandy. Mandy is more of a subdued performance for Cage. He does have some, moments where he kind of gets to chew up some scenery a bit, and it's appropriate and it's not corny. But again, he was engaged. You can tell he's engaged in his performance, and he 110% understood the assignment. And I think on the opposite end of that spectrum for me, as the movie I picked for that Cage month, and I'm so glad I did because I'd never seen it before, was Vampire's Kiss. And I love that movie, and I know it's mostly known for the memes, but the crazy wacky performance from Cage in that movie was, again, him understanding the assignment 110%. That's the kind of movie it was supposed to be. Now it's weird, jarring. That's why it's kind of a cult classic. I think it's misunderstood. I think that's a really good film. I think it has a very interesting message if you try to dive into it a bit. But yeah, Cage is just he's a mixed bag. Sometimes it's a paycheck, and sometimes he's completely engaged and gives a great performance. Just whether or not he unlocks that code in his head or not.
Yeah, when he decides to turn it on, he's the best there is, right? And Vampire's Kiss, I genuinely unironically love that movie. Like, it's just such a great,
100%,
I just
yes,
love
agree.
everything he's in. And so he adds a lot of gravity to this. He plays Red Miller, right? Who's the main protagonist. And then you get the titular Mandy. Mandy Bloom is her name. She's played by Andrea Riseborough. Those are the two main kind of protagonists, or Nicolas Cage surely is. The main antagonist, the main bad guy is a guy named Jeremiah Sand, played by Linus Roach. You'd recognize him. Ned Dennehy's in it. He's another member of this cult. Her name, I'm going to mess it up again. Olwen Fourie, I believe is her name. Fourier, maybe. We've seen her in a couple things, actually, in recent years. She's popped up. And then you get some really great cameo appearances by the great Richard Brake and Bill Duke as well, which is always fun. So we'll talk about those in a quick sec. But just the setting, like... This seems to be, I don't know exactly where. I think I've looked up and I've actually seen competing suggestions of where this is supposed to be set. But, if you were to say it was set in the Pacific Northwest, or it was set, but it's set in some sort of, heavily wooded kind of rural environment where you have Red and Mandy living this, pretty isolated, very kind of intimate, serene, existence. You definitely get the some kind of slow burn early setup shots and interaction with them of, Red is, we know he's a combat veteran. We know he's got a little bit of a checkered past, substance abuse is part of it as well. They're very clear on indicating that. And kind of, looking for a second chance type of thing, happy out separate from the world, if you will, with Mandy. So there's this really kind of, mutual respect and love and admiration for both of them. And they seem just kind of very, happy in their everyday life. You get some suggestions that Mandy also, is dealing with some trauma from her past as well, perhaps like familial stuff. You don't really necessarily get it spelled out, but you can tell that they both are kind of like are a little bit damaged in that way. And then they come together to kind of, help and support each other in this, kind of very equal, loving relationship. Red works as, I believe, as a logger, a lumberjack in some capacity. Mandy works at a store, like a little kind of convenience store nearby type of thing. Little, almost like, small little country shop, store, bait shop, whatever it is. And you can just get some nice establishing shots and things set up throughout the first, 15 minutes or so. Then the inciting incident kind of is Mandy just walking, minding her own business on the way to work. And she's spotted by this guy, Jeremiah Sand, who we come to learn is the leader of this cult called the Children of the New Dawn. They're very much influenced by Charles Manson. And the Manson family. There's definitely shades of maybe Jim Jones in there as well, but like it's very Manson family-ish, right? They even call each other brother this and sister that and mother and this and all that.
Angle.
Oh, and his music angle.
Right.
Yeah. So you come to realize, you come to learn that Jeremiah was this failed musician, obviously total psychopath, but also huge egomaniac as well. Feels that he, was wronged in some sort of capacity in the music world, made an album or whatever, not tremendously popular album necessarily, but then like he kind of left the music world behind to pursue his higher calling, which is, as the Messiah or whatever. Right. So he's got these like insane delusions of grandeur. He's very, entitled, like I said, huge, like egomaniac. So he sees Mandy just walking along the road. They pass her and he gets it, kind of transfixed on her that she's going to be his. Right. And he's entitled to that because he's, Jesus Christ or whatever.
Yeah. What a great editing decision, too, of just like hitting a freeze frame over like that basically completely red and black, shot because the whole scene is just red and black, because anytime the bad guys are on screen, everything just turns red.
Right.
But, like, just that freeze frame, it looks so much like a freeze frame you would see on Unsolved Mysteries of like a missing person.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the last known photo we have of this person. So it's just
yeah, it reminded me of something from that, or from like almost from like a like a freeze frame from like Ninja Gaiden or something. You know what I mean? When they like somebody snaps into action, you get that cha-cha type of like. But anyway, you get introduced to a couple other people that are part of the Children of the New Dawn. You've got Mother Marlene, who's this kind of like older woman who definitely has like an infatuation, sexually as well with Jeremiah. There's a lot of jealousy there. You have Brother Swan, who's a real fucking creep. You have a handful of other, just random, cult members that we'll learn as we come along. But those are kind of a couple of the big ones. And they decide that, he's kind of being a little bitch, throwing a little, cult leader temper tantrum, saying like, I can't function without, this person. We need to find out how she is and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Mother Marlene is like a little bit jealous that he's obsessed with this random stranger he saw, and Brother Swan is like, nah, dog, I'm gonna go, I'll go get her for you, kind of thing. So he employs this group of, I guess, like demonic biker acid Cenobites, I'll say, that are really like, playing the part of like the mythical beasts, the monsters, as it would be if this was like a, some sort of fantasy hero quest, which it is, but that's kind of the characters that they're playing. Goes and literally calls them using like the horn of Abraxas, which is like, sounds like it's straight out of Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely.
And they show up on ATVs, and they've got like crazy ass armor that they've made that makes them look literally like Cenobites. Like one of them has like spikes coming out of them. One of them has a giant bladed cod piece, like Bob mentioned. Like, it's pretty fucking
up
wild.
To this point, the movie definitely had some like, okay, it's going to be a weird psychological thriller with this cult and this couple, and then this takes it to another level. The fantasy element is firmly introduced at this point. You're like, oh, it's going to get real weird.
It's funny because it's highly, like I said, fantasized, but they try to keep it a little bit closer to realism by just kind of explaining that it's not necessarily a monster. What they are these insane biker gang,
drug addicts.
They used to be drug like mules, I guess. Like they transported drugs, but they were given some like ultra concentrated tainted acid from this guy, this chemist, that turned them into fucking sex demons, basically.
Yeah, just basically, sex demons, because like you said, like they're doing all kinds of body masochism to themselves, and like they're constantly just like dripping, they're wet, they have nails all through them everywhere. They
literally talk like full-on demons. They don't talk like humans at all.
Yeah, so most of them are nonverbal. It's only the leader really who's just like, oh, what's your blood?
Well, and the funny thing is, this is the theme that you'll see coming back to it, and they don't really talk about it. They don't really come out and say it, but like the one thing that I've picked up on a couple of times is, instead of everything just being magic and sorcery, instead of it's just like, this is a sword and sorcery novel turned into a movie, right? But instead of it being actual sorcery or alchemy or whatever, it is your brain is magic. That is the theme. Your brain is magic. And if you do things to your brain, or if things happen to your brain, whether it be trauma, whether it be massive amounts of LSD, whatever, you now live in the sword and sorcery world. That the real world is that if the right things happen to your brain. That's the theme.
Right. And like we get very few pieces of like what we would understand as the real world. Like the scene between Mandy and the old woman in the convenience store, that's pretty mundane. One of my favorite shots is like with Mandy and Red, and they're watching TV, and they just have like food on a TV tray, and they're both like hunched forward because they're so engaged by the TV. Yeah, like that's such a normal thing. And then like Bill Duke is our last stop of normalcy, really.
Correct. Yeah. He's the last time. And I'm obviously buzzing through this here. So we'll jump to that pretty much right now. The bikers are hired to kidnap Mandy, which they do. They break in the middle of the night. You get this, scary scene of them, basically incapacitating, just like beating the shit out of Red and kidnapping Mandy. And then, ultimately Red, I can't say Nicolas Cage, Red goes to consult Bill Duke, who is, presumably his old army buddy. Who's also like a combat veteran, and to figure out what's going on next. But before that, we should probably talk about the kind of fate that Mandy eventually is subjected to. So they kidnap Mandy, and Jeremiah's whole thing is, we've got to, I've got to seduce her. I am this next coming of Jesus Christ. I'm the shit. I am so desirable sexually. I am this, I'm that, I'm just going to basically set up the scenario where Mandy's just going to fall into my arms. Right. So they kidnap her. They drug her in a couple of different ways. And there's a lot of these little weird world building things that really make like sword and sorcery novels cool. Or if you're into that type of stuff, which I am, but I love the world building type of stuff. And one of them is they have this giant mutant, what you can only imagine is like some Amazonian crazy wasp that's like pickled in some sort of solution. And they like make it sting her in the neck, and it's just like this wild set of hallucinogenic drugs and stuff they use to make her highly impressionable. And then they put her in front of Jeremiah, and he's it's this ultra trippy scene where there's everything's kind of blending together. In fact, like Jeremiah is doing this whole monologue, which is really creepy. And like Mandy's face is like superimposed over it. It's super disorienting, but you get the idea of what he's doing.
It's very intense. And don't we get some full frontal male nudity here as well?
We do in a second. Yeah. So Jeremiah, ultimately, he's really.
Sorry, I got excited. There was some dick. So
no, we don't get dick that often, guys. We get excited when we hear about it. So basically, he's doing the whole she's in a highly subjective state. He's really laying it on thick, talking about his past. He plays his music, which is so creepy and like the worst kind of flower child music you can imagine. It definitely has some like almost lutish sword and sorcery Tolkien-esque type of feels to it as well.
It's real Ren Fair dog shit, but also at the same time the lyrics are praising him. He praises himself in his own song.
It is. So it's like, a very religious sounding sound too. Yeah.
He's clearly very self-centered, very narcissistic. The song just furthers that. It's just very clear now. Dude's pretty high on himself.
And I think you're right. Aside from making it seem, aside from it just being lame, it is the first thing that shows truly how fucking deranged and dangerous his ego is. Like, before this, you're just like, oh, he's just kind of a whiny cult leader bitch, but then you're like, no, he has an incredibly fragile ego, and a cult leader with a fragile ego is a very dangerous thing, right? So we start to see like, oh boy, she is like walking on a razor's edge here with this psychopath. And then she does the exact thing you want her to do, but the exact thing she shouldn't do, which he does his whole thing and how great he is, and basically like, I have chosen you kind of thing. And then he just like pulls his kind of like very unimpressive pecker out, I'll say, which is a good thing for this guy. He's just showing his dick on screen, but it's just like a real. Hey. It's there's nothing wrong with it. It's just. He was
in Chronicles of Riddick, man. Let's not judge here.
I understand, but he does this on purpose. Like, this is a performance decision. He's like, I'm talking about how I'm the shit and I'm a fuck god, and here's my.
It's a grub
mediocre
worm,
little wiener. My not great little wiener.
But I mean, that's on him. He didn't even bother to fluff himself up for her.
You got to get a little semi going if we're going to do that.
Well, that's the thing. He's so self-centered. He's so egomaniacal that he just thinks, people are just going to bask in the glory of my little pecker, you know?
And the thing is, it probably has worked because like they're already in a room full of people that it's worked on.
Yes.
He is essentially giving a timeshare presentation and everybody else in the room it's worked on. But now Mandy, she has a very different reaction and just basically says, "Boo, you're not funny."
You know what we call that maneuver in Southwest Ohio?
What's that?
Giving her the Roethlisberger. Behold my gray dick.
Whatever. We've moved on to Pickett, so we don't care. Bag on him all you want.
It's only a matter of time. But yeah, anyway, so Mandy just flat out laughs at him. Like she is like cackling at him and he's getting real bummed about the whole thing. Like he's very taken aback. He's very like starts with like surprise, then like he feels very, you can, I mean, this is a great performance by the way. You can see it on his face. He's surprised, then he's humiliated, then he's enraged. And it's like, how dare you rat fuck, you know what I mean? So, so obviously he goes into full on revenge mode, and is basically saying like, oh, you know, you're in love with Red. Like, you know, this is what real love is. So it's very much this thing of like, Mandy has the thing that because he's a sociopath, he can't have or understand. So the only quote unquote love that he has is based on control, which is with his cult. Right. And he doesn't understand what Mandy and Red have. And for that reason, he's like scared and threatened and enraged by it. So so they go and, you know, he has Red, you know, tied up. And it's a pretty brutal scene. Like he has like barbed wire in his mouth and all this stuff. And he goes up and basically demonstrates to Red, like, hey, I'm a bigger man than you. That's like kind of what he's trying to say. Right. And he's like, hey, look, and he makes the one like young girl in the cult, like play Russian roulette in front of him, which she survives it. But it's kind of like, look what these people do for me. Like you're a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. And Red is tied up, you know, bound and all that stuff. They ends up stabbing Red with this like ceremonial dagger, you know, which is, again, it looks like it's straight out of a sword and sorcery novel. And then in a very brutal, heart-wrenching scene, they hang Mandy in a sleeping bag above the fire and burn her to death, you know, in front of Red. So he has to watch it. So super yeah, just like emotionally devastating scene, right? After you watch that, you're just like, Jesus Christ, that was heavy.
Kind of a bummer, man.
It is. It's rough. But now you're like, you're so invested in his revenge. But that's not how, if you've ever read any type of, you know, fantasy sword and sorcery novels, it doesn't just, you don't get that instant gratification. You got to get the build up. You got to get the, you know, the hero hitting rock bottom and then building himself back up and preparing for the journey and then the journey, then the fight. And, you know, so this is very much sharing those same beats. But I think in a brilliant bit of writing and directing after that, you do get a little bit of a palate cleanser because he wakes up and he goes over and her, you know, her skull is in the fire pit and he touches it and it crumbles and and that is his like, she's never coming back. I have to accept that and now figure out what I'm going to do next. He goes inside, the TV's on, and you get the famous Cheddar Goblin scene, which is so disorienting. It's the only way I can say it, because you just went through this like emotional, extremely emotional, tragic thing. And then there's this insane TV commercial from, and I forgot to write the guy's name down. It's the same guy who, if you've ever seen the short, which you can find on YouTube, and if you haven't seen it, it's fucking brilliant. It's called Too Many Cooks.
I saw Too Many Cooks live on Adult Swim and it broke my brain. I was intoxicated. I was not prepared for Too Many Cooks. Folks, if you're not familiar, Google it. It's on YouTube. Too Many Cooks. It's worth the watch.
But I'm fairly positive the person, and I didn't write his name down, so that's why I'm not making the connection if it's there, is the guy who did Too Many Cooks, definitely did the Cheddar Goblin.
Casper Kelly directed Too Many Cooks.
Okay. It's this weird little, short short film within a film, which is essentially a commercial that Red stumbles upon when he makes his way back into the house. Meanwhile, he's in his underwear, and a t-shirt, and like this crazy shirt with a tiger on it. He walks in and he's like dazed, he's exhausted, he's emotionally drained, he's all of these things. He's terrified, he's sick with grief. And he just sees this commercial with these little kids getting a bunch of mac and cheese dumped on them by a little like green demon called the Cheddar Goblin, and it's wild. And then you just see him like mumble like, Cheddar Goblin, like he's like half out of it. It's such a wild scene. Then you get the scene where he goes into the bathroom, which is one of my favorite ones too, where he grabs his like emergency bottle of vodka because he doesn't drink anymore. Like you said, he alluded to some substance abuse issues. He just grabs his bottle of vodka, pours it on his wound, starts chugging it, and just has these like primal screams, bawling. It's just, like I said, it's such an emotional roller coaster, but also, like I said, kind of weirdly funny at the same time, because like he's standing there in his underwear in his kitchen, like full lights on. Or not in his kitchen, in his bathroom. So this is where he like I said, this is the scene where the little bit of catharsis, deals with the grief. He accepts what's happening to a certain extent. And then he goes to Bill Duke, and Bill Duke gives him info, which is, he talks about the Black Skulls, which are the crazy demonic sex cult acid bikers who have basically been like abducting people off the highway and killing them. And he talks about the acid and where their origin story comes from. And he gets his crossbow, which Bill Duke had apparently been holding for him. In addition,
I do have a question here, Brian.
Yeah.
I never quite understood why the crossbow was with Bill Duke or Carruthers or whatever. Yeah. Was he holding it because he was waiting for Red to sober up, or?
I took it as Red was trying to make some big changes in his life, and he was like, I need to get weapons and booze and drugs and all the things that were my old life out of my life, kind of thing. And he gave him the crossbow as like a gift and was like, this is mine. I've given it to you. And in Bill Duke's head, it was like, he's going to need this someday, because he even makes this line of like, in same condition you brought it to me, and basically saying like, I never used it. I just kept it for you when you needed it, basically.
Kept it operational for you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The same way he has like the bottle of vodka buried in that very bottom drawer at the very back of the bureau, before he pulls it out. It's like Nick Cage has these things buried in his life, in case of emergency break glass type situation.
I was gonna say, it's even like that, that like, it's even a trope in, Conan type stories where it's like, I'm, the guy who's runs around cutting people's heads off all day, he meets a woman, falls in love, decides he's going to settle down and start a family, but then there's this trope of like the violence of the world are always going to turn you back into the thing you were. Like that's a Conan sword and sorcery kind of trope. So I took it that way as well.
Yeah, he just gets pulled back in. A history of violence. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. So he gets all the idea, the information about the Black Skulls. He goes and in an awesome scene, which I'm not doing it justice because I got to move quick here, but he forges himself a straight up fucking Conan the Barbarian battle axe. Like a fucking heavy metal album cover.
It's a heavy metal 2000 battle axe. It has so many curves and spines to it.
It is, I believe, patterned after the logo for the metal band Celtic Frost.
Okay.
I remember that. Yes, I remember reading that somewhere. Celtic Frost has that on. That's like insignia on one of their albums.
It's like I think it's part of their font, right? For like their F.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know, something, but I do remember reading that when we did the movie on our pod.
Yeah,
it looks very similar to the F in Celtic Frost. So I'll give it that.
It's very metal though. It's just like yes, again, it's like wow, okay, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, and this is like, and it's right around this time, which is like 2/3 into the movie. we get the fucking title card, which is so great. I'm such a sucker for that.
Yeah, way to bury the lead. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's pretty cool. It's like, and now the real movie starts. Right?
It's like it's essentially the symbol of like, and now shit is about to hit the fan, right? This is when the knight, the barbarian, whoever it is like, all right, I'm all lined up. I got my shit set up. I'm in shape. I'm healed. I've got my weapons. I'm ready to fucking go. Right. The first thing he does is like hide in the woods and shoots one of the bikers off his ATV with the crossbow. And then there's this whole thing where he just basically is like, I'm just going to run his ass down. But then he's this big monster with fucking metal armor. So he flips the car over. And then he wakes up tied up.
He basically hits a parking bollard.
Yeah, it's like a Jersey barrier he hits and just flips his car over. He wakes up tied up in this like, trailer, random middle of nowhere somewhere. And he's in the lair. So this is like, he tries to fight the dragon. The dragon drags him back to the lair. He survives. And now he's in the dragon's cave, if you will. But he's in the bikers, crazy, fucking drug trailer. And he brains one of them with a pipe. He ends up, fighting this one that's just doing, I'm going to say 8 pounds of coke, like on its table.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Who has a
massive amount of drugs.
He has like a sickle as a codpiece as well. Like it's so over the top.
And he's watching porn, isn't he?
Yeah. And he's just watching porn.
And, this movie, this section of the movie, this scene here goes as hard as you can possibly go. Yeah. Like whatever vibe they were trying to achieve in this skeezy sex drug den trailer dungeon, they nail it. It is intense and it is weird and it's very atmospheric.
Oh, they pull zero punches, and the idea is like, they got the best of him, and then it's like the hero is willing to do whatever it takes, right? So not only does he get the upper hand, strategically, by busting that one guy's ass with a pipe, and then eventually the sickle dick biker is like about to kill him, and he slashes his throat and then just like literally bathes in his blood, and he's just like like bathing in his blood,
which he wears for the rest of the movie.
Right.
Yeah, which he's for the rest of the movie he is covered, drenched in blood.
Which this is like how you're getting 110% Cage, because he doesn't have to take a blood geyser to the face like that.
No.
He doesn't have to. He's a man of his 50s. He doesn't have to take fucking corny ass, corn syrup to the face like that. They could just put it on off camera, but no, he wants to go 110%.
This is why he ate bugs in literally in Vampire's Kiss. He didn't have to eat real bugs, but he did.
Love of the game, baby.
In Vampire's Kiss, they had to convince him not to fire a blank into his own mouth. Because he's like, because the scene where he tries to commit suicide in the basement after assaulting his secretary, he does put a gun in his mouth, and they're like, no, we're going to use prop rounds. Well, I want to seem real. Let's use a real blank. Like, no, like there's still gas and pressure. It'd blow your mouth. No, Nick, please. We'll let you eat the bugs, but you can't fire a blank into your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway.
So he's going for broke in this one. He then there's a scene where like the one guy like rips his shirt. He's like, "You ripped my shirt," and then he snaps his neck like straight up Steven Seagal style. It's fucking great. I love this scene. I remember like, again, this is him. He went in, he got the best of these guys, but just barely. And he was like, wow, I need a leg up type of thing. And this is the hero's journey that he has no intention of coming back from, which again, another sword and sorcery trope. I'm going in and I'm going to kill everybody, and I don't care if I come back. So what he does is he grabs the super concentrated, like what looks like melted plastic jar of acid that they have, dips his finger in it, and then just like touches it to his tongue. And I love the way they shoot this, because he slowly takes it to his mouth, and the second his tongue touches it, his brain melts, and you just get this insane rapid fire cutscene of his literal face melting off, like just symbolizing the insane complete destruction of his ego and his just full ego death, plus, hyperdrive, plus he goes Super Saiyan all at once. Like, it's just chaos.
Yeah, just it all happens at once. And I love it too. And the other part I love about it is just that wee little bit he dips on his tongue makes him go completely insane. Yeah. But we already saw earlier in the movie, the leader of the cult was chugging it like chocolate milk. He just goes to town on the jar and he just and it's dripping off his face, which just lets you know how fucking absolutely gone these guys are.
Yeah, they were chugging it. His brain melted the second it touched his tongue. I just love it. It's so over the top in the most fun way.
And it goes to your point from earlier, Brian, about, the magic being in their brains. You got to alter your brain to get to the right level, to complete your mission. Yeah. Yeah. Magic and sorcery are just acid in this movie, right? So, or big giant fucking, South American wasp venom or whatever it is, right? You then get, an awesome, I'm not even going to do it justice. If you haven't seen this movie, then you're missing out. You got to go see it. But you get a fucking flaming car fight with the last, basically biggest and baddest of the Cenobites. And he eventually just cuts the guy's flaming head off and then lights a cigarette off his flaming head. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's fucking awesome. Then he goes to see the chemist, who's Richard Brake, like we said. And he has a tiger. It's not explained. He just has a tiger in his weird cooking. Great. It looks like he's set there. Great visual. Yeah. It looks like he's in a shipping container or something, right? Like he's got his little acid cooking house in a shipping container, but he's got a fucking tiger in there. It's wild. And he releases the tiger. And
it's such a weird scene because they're having Nick Cage is not saying anything in this scene. He's just staring him down. And Richard Brake is having this monologue and he's having all these revelations of what he's hearing in his head. And he's like, oh yeah, they're so mean. They're so terrible. And also I'm hurting the tiger. I should let the tiger go. And so he does. And it's just it's all something going on in his head that he's cooked out.
But there's some weird suggestions that somehow they have both done so much acid that they're connecting telepathically almost, they're communicating telepathically on some level.
Right. Back to your drugs or magic analogy, he's effectively a wizard.
Yes. He is 100%. You're exactly right. He is 100% the wizard, the sorcerer who ultimately gives the, because he did everything he could do as a hero. He forged the fucking sacred weapon. He got prepared. He did all that stuff. He demonstrated his, willingness to die for this task. And then before he went to the final boss, he had to go get the fucking wizard powers. So he did. He went to the wizard who is the cook, the chemist, and he tells him also where the final boss fight is going to take place, which is at the cult's temple they're constructing up in the fucking mountains. So he finds his way there on a fucking quad, riding through this crazy tunnel. It's this weird, you just feel like you're a million miles from anywhere kind of thing. You might as well be on a fucking mountaintop in, some mythical land, but they're probably somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Actually, I believe they shot this in, I looked it up. Why I'm blanking on, Belgium. They shot this in Belgium, weirdly enough.
Oh, wow. Huh, yeah. Interesting.
I would have guessed Vancouver.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought too. But they shot it in Belgium.
No kidding.
Anyway, so they go to the final fight at the cult temple. They've got the centurions basically outside, which are the minor members of the cult. One of them has a giant 10-foot chainsaw. And of course, Red is a lumberjack. He's like a log cutter, right? Or a forest.
I was waiting for that to pay off because the movie gives it to you in the opening and it never comes up until now.
So this is the sword fight. This is the sword battle with the fucking Black Knight, basically, right? And in this instance, it's a chainsaw fight. So you get this sick chainsaw fight. Eventually, Red fucking throws a giant chain around his neck and pulls him on top of his own saw. It's awesome.
Lots of blood. Lots of blood.
Tons of blood. It's like rivers of blood at this point. He goes inside the temple, goes through all these creepy little passageways and shit, and stumbles upon Mother Marlene, who is the witch temptress, if you will, who basically offers to fuck him and is like, Jeremiah said, I give bomb ass head. You want to get down on this? And he's like, and then, he's just looking at her like, what the fuck? Cut the scene, and he has removed her head from her body and throws it into the chamber at Jeremiah's feet. So this could be more sword and sorcery.
That's Grindel's mom, right?
Yeah, that's very Grindel's mom situation. Yeah, for sure.
I didn't want to say the Evelyn to Jeremiah's Skeletor, because Evelyn has more agency than just being, you want to fuck? I'll fuck good. I fuck so good.
Yeah. She doesn't have a ton to offer. And that's the thing. It's like these just come down to, these are just like shitty cult leaders, you know what I mean? And they've only been manipulating people mentally, right? So he gets in, he's went through all the challenges of the gauntlet, and here he is at the end, and he has his final, emotional challenge with Jeremiah. And Jeremiah basically is trying to say, like, you can't kill me. I'm the chosen one, and I'm Jesus Christ, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And in the most satisfying fashion ever, instead of cutting his head off, he literally, like, while Jeremiah begs for his life and like offers to blow him, he squeezes Jeremiah's head and crushes his skull, and his eyes pop out with his bare hands. And you're just like, fuck yes. Like, I remember just like standing up in the theater almost. Like, I was just like, this is fucking sick.
And what I like about that scene is that it's not gratuitous in the fact that you get that weird, like, homosexual angle. It's the fact that Jeremiah clearly just values submission. So he assumes that Red will also value submission. So maybe if I just submit to him, that will spare me.
Well, and it's also like he is such a fragile person too. Like, it's like all of everything up to this point is like false bravado, right? Yeah. It is just, it has worked on weak people. And now he recognizes that he's up against somebody who he can't just manipulate. So he's like, fuck, I got to just resort to just like, oh, I'm submissive. I'm going to roll over. Yeah.
Guess what I'm saying? It's less like he was closeted, kind of thing. More so that he's just like, well, this is what I would want someone to do, so I'll do that. Hopefully that works, because that's the way his brain works.
Right?
Yeah. What it is he does the MacGruber. It's the MacGruber because there's the whole.
Hold on. There's no celery involved.
There's no celery, but I mean, it's the same thing as, I'll suck your dick. I'll do whatever you want. You want to fuck me? I'll fuck you. You can fuck me. I'll fuck you. Whatever you want, I'll do whatever.
Just crying and whining. Yeah.
That's good. No, that's good. That's good.
I mean, I swear it's got to be purposeful that it's so similar to MacGruber at that moment. But, it's.
I mean, I did not clock that at the time, but now that you mention it, okay.
Watch it again with that in mind.
Yeah.
I am not going to flat out say the Panos Cosmatos was heavily influenced by MacGruber, but I can see the similarity. So he does this like whole like, this is that meme that's going around all the time where it's like, it's just a picture of like a sweet gothic castle, and the meme is like, guys will see this and say hell yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is that, like, that scene where you're just like, fuck, hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
This is sick. But so then he marches out, he burns down the temple behind him, and then he's driving off into oblivion. You're kind of like, what's going to happen to him? Is his brain fucked? But it doesn't matter, because he achieved what he was looking to achieve. He fucking conquered evil. He got revenge. And he gets, his brain at least gives him a little bit of reprieve in that moment, showing him that he did good by Mandy, because he like hallucinates that she's sitting there in the car with him, smiling at him. And then in a scene that I remember got a weird laugh in the theater, you cut back over to him, and he's just got this giant grin, smile covered in blood in the driver's seat. And it's a meme. Like, that's a still that you see memes and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
but it's just in the moment. It's such a heavy moment. And then to cut back over to him, it's just some of the best perfectly placed, like subtle black humor ever. And then you get another one of these crazy, galactic cosmic backdrop, graphic novel looking backdrops as he drives away, and it's the fucking credits roll. And it's sort of like, hell yeah.
It's the sign that he is doomed to live in a high on fire music video for the rest of his life.
Right.
But, he did accomplish his task. That's his curse. He now lives in fucking stoner metal fucking music videos.
He could never go back. He's forever changed.
Ronnie James Dio will be shrieking in his ear for the rest of his life, but it was all worth it,
Yeah. But it just, I have to admit, I'm probably playing or my hand too early here, but the pace and the satisfying nature of the end of this movie were perfect, pitch perfect for this film. Like, and I'm a big stickler for that. Like, you really got to nail the third act. This movie does that, but literally that lasts like 10 minutes. 10, 15 minutes.
This could have dragged out, like, there are other directors who would have absolutely dragged this out.
Yeah. No, our hero wins in the end. He does it in commanding fashion, and it's satisfying, and it fits the film. It's like, you could have stretched that out and padded it and fucked it up, but no, you just
you could have had him playing croquet with Bill Dukes. Like, you could have had like just shit that didn't need to be there, and they just had the restraint to go, nope, that's it. That's it. They didn't even some people would have said, like, maybe you should have had him, like, dying in some sort of, like, hero's death. No, not even that. Just let it be ambiguous. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest fear, after seeing the film would have been like that final fight with the cult leader who is a giant pussy. That's the thing. He is a giant pussy, and he goes out like a bitch. Because you could have stretched that fight out. It could have gone back and forth. You could have had the upper hand, and then, like, Cage could have been saved by the power of Mandy, coming to him in a vision and making him, like, no, none of that. The guy's a bitch. He goes out like a bitch. The movie ends.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. He already did all the things he needs to do to get the satisfaction of killing the bad guy.
Yeah. So, and it's the fact that Mandy already established that guy's a bitch. Like, like, she already defeated him,
once. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. She defeated him by wilting him in front of his, followers. Like, there's no way he's going to get a physical upper hand on somebody like that psycho. So,
yeah.
Right.
Somebody who just ate, who just melted their brain off and was already twice your size and, like, fucking, some sort of, like, commando style badass. And now his brain.
A commando lumberjack who melted his brain is after you.
At this point, it's worth pointing out that Cage was, in fact, a holy half-dead who had seen the Underverse. So,
yeah. All right, guys, that is Mandy from 2018, and it fucking rules. And that's my whole argument for Mandy. Is it fucking rules?
That's kind of hard to argue with, so I'll give you credit there.
I don't have arguments either. I did want to bring something up, though, because since we've touched on this film in the past, just talking about it, but there's another film we've brought up a lot, and it's Cobra.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Wait, you wanted a grocery store scene? Is that what you're saying?
No. Are you aware that Panos Cosmatos' dad directed Cobra? Okay.
Yes.
I just didn't know, because we've never
totally forgot until you said that, but yes, I did know that, that Panos Cosmatos, I actually had a thing down, wrote his dad, the director, and then I never got into it, but his that's how he got into filmmaking. His father was a director and directed Cobra among a few other movies as well, but Cobra is by far the most
First Blood
one.
Part 2, and then there's another big one in there.
There's like 3 or 4 like box office, big box office movies.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say box office, but at least, in that we love, because the other one's Leviathan.
Yeah.
The other one's Leviathan. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, Leviathan's a good. Wow, that's a change of pace compared to the other ones.
Yeah.
That's Peter Weller, right?
Peter Weller is.
It's the Undersea. It's like they're in the fucking.
Yeah, Peter Weller's the lead in that.
Is he?
Yeah, Peter Weller isn't. Yeah, Peter Weller is the lead in that.
I get that one confused with Deep Star 6.
I always remember Daniel Stern from Leviathan. He has one of the more interesting victim victimhoods of that movie.
I always get that confused with Chud. Because Daniel Stern. No, I'm just kidding.
That's John Goodman's first movie.
Chud?
Mm-hmm.
Really? I didn't know that.
He plays one of the cops at the diner at the very end.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I remember that was like Daniel Stern straight out of like doing Shakespeare in the Park. He went and did Chud right after that.
And the dad from Home Alone's the lead in that, right? Or the other lead. I can't think of the actor's name. Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's the dad from Home Alone.
Yeah.
And Daniel Stern together, right? Weird.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That movie rules. Not as much as Mandy, but yes, I do remember Panos Cosmatos' dad, created the wildness that is Cobra.
Shit, he did Tombstone too.
His dad did Tombstone?
Yeah, George Cosmatos. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know he did Tombstone's fucking one of my favorite westerns of all time.
That is wild.
Yeah. I didn't realize he had. I knew Cobra. I knew the fucking Rambo, one of the Rambo movies. But yeah, I didn't realize he did Tombstone as well. Holy shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Quite a repertoire. Well, I'm excited to see, more out of Panos Cosmatos. He's done a couple other movies since then.
He did a short film for Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities.
Right. And I feel like I've heard him connected to a couple of other.
He has stuff coming out, but I think it's just like on hold because of all the strikes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He has a film. His next film is supposedly Necrocosm.
Yeah.
Which, just sounds fucking out of the world, but it is because it's the IMDb synopsis is a phantasmagorical fantasy nightmare set deep within a strange galaxy where two lovers are torn apart as they try to survive a malevolent invasion.
I mean, that sounds fucking great.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. Anything phantasmagorical. Like, I have read like 3 books in a row for some reason that use the term phantasmagorical in them. That is like dog whistle for like the perfect type of horror nerd fiction that I love. It's like Laird Barron and fucking maybe anything that's like vaguely Poe influenced. Like, they love to use phantasmagorical. Like, Guillermo del Toro loves that word. Like, it's like, this is some nerd ass weird cosmic fantasy horror shit.
It's horny, but it's also extra dimensionally. Yeah,
it's scary, but you kind of get a boner. Anyway, all right. I've talked enough about Mandy. So,
okie dokie. Then we'll move on to the Toxic Avenger.
Continued in part 2.